Hello everybody, it's Miss Hull here. For your maths this week, we have asked you to look at rounding. So I'm going to go through some bits and bobs that might help you and use some strategies and methods that we've used in the past so you can have a go at home. Okay, off we go. So whenever you think of rounding, you need to try to get a picture in your head of a number line, because all you're being asked to do when you're rounding is to imagine that number and then place it on a number line and use your knowledge to decide which other two numbers it comes in between. You'll be asked either to round up or round down. Now, as lots of you know in year 4, I like to just adapt my number line slightly and make it a little bit more fun. So I put a little car in the middle of my number line, and if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, I've already put the digits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now all I need is a number to try and round either up or down. So I'm going to use this number here, the number 27. And when I'm rounding to the nearest 10, it's really important that I know which 10s this number here comes in between. So which 10 comes before 27 and which 10 comes after 27. Now we should all know that. We've got 20 that comes before 27 and we have 30 that comes after 27. Then, when we're rounding to the nearest 10, we need to remember that we're looking at the ones digit here, okay? The ones digit. So we're looking at the number 7. And we're going to look along our number line. 7's here. So if we have a digit of 7, we round up to the nearest 10, which is 30. 27 rounded to the nearest 10 is 30. I know in class we did lots of different ways of trying to remember this, and one of them that was really popular was that if it was 5 and above, we make sure we carry along up the road. We're going to try one more now. So this time, we'll use the number 63, okay? Same as before, because we're rounding to the nearest 10, we've got our ones digits already placed on our number line. We need to then think about which 10s 63 comes in between. So the 10 that comes before 63 is 60, and the 10 that comes after 63 is 70. Then we need to transfer our thinking to our ones column again. So this time we have 3 ones in our number. We'll have to look along our number line. Yes, we need to round down if we've got the number 63. 63 rounded to the nearest 10 is 60. Now, it might be a good idea to pause the video at this point and to have a go at rounding these numbers yourselves. You can draw a number line just like I have, or you can keep it straight as you normally would. Or it might be that some of you don't need to draw the number line at all, you can just picture it in your mind, that's fine. When you're ready, restart the video and we'll carry on to rounding to the nearest 100. Okay, when we round to the nearest 100, I've set this up in exactly the same way as before. I'm going to put my car in the middle, but instead of just placing the digits 1, 2, 3, 4 on the number line, I've placed 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 on my number line. That's because when we're rounding to the nearest 100, we need to think about the tens column. And as we go through, you might notice a pattern on where we look and when. So let's say, for example, we have the number 548. Before we do anything, we have to do exactly what we did when we rounded to the nearest 10 and make sure we know what comes either side. This time we're not looking at tens though, we're looking at hundreds. So the 100 that comes before 548 is 500, and the 100 that comes after 548 is 600. what we're able to do is look this time at the tens column here. And we can focus on that to help us round either up or down. So we now need to look for 540. We can leave the 8 for now. Oh, look there, 540. So we are going to round down. 548 rounded to the nearest 100 is 500. Let's try another one. This time we have the number 189. Same again, we can't do anything until we know the hundreds that come before and after that number. So let's put those on now. 100 is the 100 that comes before 189. 200 comes after 189. Same again, we're going to be looking at a particular column of our place value knowledge to help us. So let's look at our tens again. We are looking for 80 along our number line because we've started at 100 and we're looking for 180. And because we're asking to round to the nearest 100, we don't need to think about the ones number at the moment. 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180. So we can round up. 189 rounded to the nearest 100 is 200. Okay, just as before, I'm going to give you a chance now to pause the video and practice these numbers here and rounding these to the nearest 100. You might want to go right the way back and practice rounding to the nearest 10 and the nearest 100 to really keep those things in your mind. When you're ready, start the video again and we will move on to rounding to the nearest 1,000. So, when we round to the nearest 1,000, again, I've set out my number line just like before. I can place my car in the middle, but we're not looking at either the units or the tens column this time. We're looking at the hundreds because we're thinking about rounding to the nearest 1,000. So we need to use our knowledge of where our number is on the number line using the next column down, which is the hundreds. So let's use, for example, the number 3,260. Just as before, we need to know which 1,000 comes before 3,260 and which 1,000 comes after 3,260. The 1,000 that comes before, you are right, is 3,000. The 1,000 that comes after is 4,000. Now what we need to do is focus our attention on the hundreds column while my car drives away. And the hundreds column in this sense is asking us to think about this number as though it was 3,200 because we're only finding the nearest 1,000. We don't need to think about the 60 at the moment. So 3,000, 3,100, 3,200. We need to round down. 3,260 rounded to the nearest 1,000 is 3,000. Let's try another. This time, let's have a look at 8,638. Just as before, we need to make sure we know the 1,000 that comes before and the 1,000 that comes after 8,638. We know that that is 8,000 and we know that the one after is 9,000. And again, we're looking at the hundreds along the number line this time. So if it helps you, mark it out on your number so you know exactly where you are looking. So 8,000, 8,100, 8,200, 8,300, 8,400, 8,500, 8,600. We're on the level that's going up. We can round up 8,638 to 9,000. And we also learned in school that the rule, again, is that if it's 5 and above, we're allowed to round up. We knew that. Okay, just as before, I'm going to give you the opportunity now to pause the video and to have a go at these examples here. Just move it so you can see them all. For now, you might just want to round these numbers to the nearest thousand, but you could also challenge yourselves to see if you can round them to the nearest 10, 100 and thousands. When you're ready, you can restart the video and there are some challenge questions for you to do. Another thing you might want to bear in mind with rounding is if there are any top tips you could follow. So I've just started this sheet here, and my first top tip to myself was to be able to picture or draw a number line. Then you might want to note down, when rounding to the nearest 10, what you need to remember. When rounding to the nearest 100, what you need to remember. And also the same when rounding to the nearest 1,000. Keeping that somewhere near when you're doing this work might help. Let's have a look at your challenge then. So, I have formed your challenge to fit the colours of the rainbow, and I'm going to zoom in on these so you can really clearly see them. You might want to try one of the challenges, you might want to try a few of them, you might want to try all 7 of them, and you might want to try and complete the rainbow. Each one has a slightly different angle to rounding, so it uses the basic things we've started with and it asks you to apply your knowledge in a slightly different way. As always, myself, Mr. Tomlinson and Mrs. Shah are available to email if you do get stuck or you want us to check what you have done. So, let's have a bit of a closer look at our challenges. Challenge number 1 is the red challenge. The number 45 rounded to the nearest 10 is 40. True or false? Explain your answer. The orange challenge. Round the number 1,642 to the nearest 10. 100 and 1,000. Yellow challenge. We are in the year 2020. Can you round 2020 to the nearest 1,000? Green challenge. Miss Akhtar says 364 rounded to the nearest 10 is 370. Is she correct? Explain your answer. Blue challenge. A number rounded to the nearest 10 is 550. What is the smallest possible number it could be? An indigo challenge. I have a 4-digit number. Mrs. Shah says I can only round 4-digit numbers to the nearest 1,000. Mr. Tomlinson says I could round this number to the nearest 10, 100 or 1,000 if I wanted to. Can you prove who is correct? You'll need to use examples with that one. And our violet challenge. When a number is rounded to the nearest 100, it is 700. When the same number is rounded to the nearest 10, it is 750. What could the number be? So all those challenges there are for you to have a go at across this next week. There's 7 and there's 7 days in the week, so you might want to try one a day or you might want to try doing a little bit more than that. It's entirely up to you. Thank you for watching. As always, make sure you're staying safe and get in touch with any of the teachers if you need help via the email. Bye!